I'm going to demonstrate sewing the square back case binding. I have 6 signatures. My 1/2 inch holes are aligned and my 3/4 inch holes are aligned. Stack those, face the spine away from me. Take the first signature, flip it over, open it to the center, line it up on the edge of the board, put a weight down that's going to hold it in place. I'm going to start in the hole that's farthest away from me and work toward myself, going in and out until I get to this end that's close to me. I leave about a 2 or 3 inch tail there. Okay, once I've gone through that whole first signature, I'm going to pull these out a little bit, so 1/2 inch spaces, and I'm going to take a tape, one of those 1/2 inch strips that I made. I'm going to put one into each of those spaces. About halfway through, it's fine, maybe a little bit more. Then I'm going to pull on both threads and tighten that up. I'm going to take out my weight, burnish along the spine. Take my next signature, open it up to the center, stack it directly on top, and I want the head of this and the tail of this, I want them to be both perfectly aligned this way, so I'm moving this way and this way, straight up. Put my weight in. Go directly into the hole above. I'm going to hook under this thread here. What I'm doing here, I only do on the first 2 and the last 2 signatures. Go into the next hole, and I'm going to do the same thing on this one. Pulling it snug, go under that thread, and back into the next hole, and then out this hole. Again, I'm going to hook under that thread. And go in. And come out the hole that's farthest away from me. Now, before I proceed with another signature, I need to connect this signature to the first signature by tying a square knot. I'm going to take the left thread, or the short thread, and put it over the right thread and pull that snug, and then take the right thread and put it over the left thread, and again pull that snug. And cut that short to about a 1/2 inch. Once I've done that, and I can close that, burnish so that it's flat and tight. Take my next signature, open it to the center. And line that up. Go directly into the hole above. I'm just going to use my needle to kind of reinforce these holes. I'm just poking through one more time. I just find that in the sewing, sometimes it just makes it go a little faster, a little easier to get in and out of the holes. Just my experience that tells me that. Just personal taste. Here I go, straight across. Notice how I'm pulling snug every time, and I'm pulling in the direction that I'm sewing. If I were to pull that way, it would rip the spine of the signature, so I pull in the direction that I'm sewing. So here again, I don't need to hook under this time. I'm just going to go straight across. And the same thing here. Straight across. Straight across. And then come out. The hole that's closest to me. Pull that snug. Now I need to connect this signature to the previous two. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to take my needle, go between the first two signatures, two that are below, and to the right of this thread here. So going in there, coming out the top between those signatures, creates a loop, and I go through that loop. And just pull that snug. And what that does, it connects this signature now to the previous two. Close that. Burnish so that it's flat. My next signature. Line it up here, and straight ahead, straight up and down. Go directly into the signature above. Again, here I can go straight across. I don't need to cross under anything. Next hole. Straight across into the next hole. Across. So once again, I need to, before I move on to the next signature, I need to attach this one to this set of signatures here. You can see it'll just lift right off. So I go to the two signatures below it, go in between those signatures, have my needle come out the top, and then pull that, creates a loop that I then go up through and pull that snug. Close that, burnish it, flat, take my next signature, open it to the center, and line that up, head and tail, straight up and down. Put my weight on it. Go into the next signature. Straight across. might happen that you run out of thread in the middle of your sewing. So one thing that you can do, or the thing to do, is to stop when you have a good amount of thread, 3 or 4 inches of thread still, and stop in the center of one of the signatures. Okay, I'm going to stop on the inside so that you don't end up having to pull a knot through a hole. So I'm going to tie a square knot that's close to the hole that it's coming out of. So again, that's left over right, and then right over left. Try that again. Right over left. Okay, square knot, pull that snug. It has to be somewhere between this hole and this hole because you don't want to pull that knot through one of the holes. Okay, now I can continue out this hole. Okay, straight across. And out that hole. Snug inside. Okay, now I'm going to do the same thing. I want to attach this signature to the previous two. And so I'm going to go up and then up through that loop. Pull that snug. Close the signature. Burnish it. Take my last signature. So you treat your last signature in this way, whether you have 10 signatures or 8 signatures or whatever number of signatures, you wait until your last signature to do this step. You're treating it very similar, you're just doing it a little bit differently. So I'm going into, now that I've attached it to the previous signature, I'm going to go into the hole directly above. And now I'm going to hook under again. So that's the difference. I'm doing with these last two what I did with the first two signatures. That last hole. So I'm going to end this the way that I end at the end of every signature. Again, I need to connect this to the previous ones. So just like the other ones, I'm going to go between the two signatures below, then up through that loop, and then I'm going to do that one more time. So it's kind of just creating another knot at the end of the sewing. And pull that snug and cut it down to about 1/2 inch. I can take these pieces of tape off. From here, what I'm going to show you is consolidating the spine. So I'm going to take this out. I'm going to go ahead and burnish this last one. Consolidating the spine is adding glue to the layer of the spine so that it becomes essentially one unit that's square rather than different signatures. So it's getting a little bit of glue between each signature, but not inside the signature. going to take a board and I'm going to put a weight on it. So, and I have about 1/4 of an inch or so sticking out. And put my weight on top of it. So I want to make sure that it's aligned here and aligned here. So I might need to adjust it just a little bit. And that it is straight up and down. So I'm going to look at this. Kind of adjust it so that everything's aligned. I take my PVA glue and I'm going to take my glue brush and I'm just going to brush along the spine. I'm not going to brush glue on the tapes. The idea here is to make all the signatures stick together in the center. These threads you can glue right into the spine. When I glue the end of the signatures, I'm gluing off rather than off and coming back on because I don't want glue to get inside the signatures. I only want the glue to get between the signatures. So take my time. I want to really I don't want a glop of glue either. I don't want a lot of glue. I want just enough to get that between the signatures. Sometimes I'll daub a little bit and that gets it between the signatures as well. Again, off at the edge. And after I've completed that, then I'm going to use my bone folder to straighten out the edge there, and then take my bone folder, the flat edge, and gently scrape along. I'm going off there. And the idea is, again, that you're trying to get perfect square for the square back case binding, and you're going to try to consolidate the separate signatures into a single spine. So this step is called consolidation. And I give that a couple minutes to dry. So after it's dried for a couple of minutes, and I'm ready for a second layer. Again, that was probably too much glue. So take a little bit of that off. Yeah, you definitely don't want to be glopping it on. And I'm not gluing over the tapes. Do the same thing. I'll take my bone folder. By the way, you're going to want to clean your bone folder after this because it will have glue on it. And I am just in a straight vertical line, gently scraping the spine. Gently scraping the spine. You don't want to spoil the integrity of the paper. You can see that it's kind of becoming one piece. And you let it sit for a couple minutes. This is a really important step to do because especially when you're making like the smaller mini book in this class, you want to make sure. So I actually get eye level and look at it straight on because I want to make sure that I have gotten glue completely between each of the signatures. I don't want to see any like air pockets between the signatures. So I give one more coat. This one I'm just going to let stay on. Again, I'm going to get down at eye level a little bit. Make sure that I've covered all my bases. And I actually think that I'm going to give this one more swipe of the bone folder. So again, I'm gently scraping. Just making sure that it's all like one unit. 3 layers ought to do it. Set that aside. Actually, I'm going to go clean my brush. So after I've let it sit a bit and the glue is pretty dry, hopefully completely dry, I'm going to tuck in those tapes like that. And then I'm going to take a piece of wax paper. And set it like that. I'm going to be wrapping this. I'm going to take this wrapper. And I'm going to, so it's set on the wax paper. And then I'm going to take wrapper so that the paper is pretty snug against the spine. So I'm just giving it a snug wrapping that I'll then tape. So that kind of holds, gives it a seal, keeps it from getting glue over anything else, including my boards. And then I put it between my boards and set a weight on top of it. And probably want kind of a heavy weight, like a brick or something. If you want to put it in the press, you can do that as well.